This is a different. It should be all the asked for saying, if I feel a little out of the sort of. Oh, that's it. Oh, I'm sorry about that. I thought that all the asked for saying. I actually might have enough time to get to it if I'm being honest. Yes. Abandoned Davidson, Uncle's is North Star, and advocates every channel of maritime dominance, great power competition, 524. Uncle's discussion take place is supposedly ignored on a community stream, LOS, only for together in disputes and the arts of difference of the ISR, UMW, UMD, the nuclear vessels in high orbiter, LOS challenges US advocated state of the stable, advocates security, trade, energy, ocean, between central arena, great power competition, US position, based on change application, provides a foundation for dispute settlement, operability, open venues for leadership, not membership in perils, naval power, underpins military, ocean leadership, economic interest, and freedom of navigation, passing 23. Joining would advance every ocean interest, economic military interest, elect that following navigational regime is better, force present alignments as well as global trade, secure major interest over resource, including elements related to air. China taking exclusive claims to lock up safe to view economic growth of US companies taking new acting unilaterally, incur objection, LLS provides for people's international community, environment, fisheries, and research. Trade disputes, economic tensions go nuclear Holland 17. Shanghai water chief of fuel, elevated competition between China and the US and Pakistan war escalates to nuclear chain possible by nuclear jail summer. There's something to things out of cutting by design by accident, keep only that expression things like naval power, maritime openness, caps, conflict escalation, multiple hotspots, challenge 24. Naval power, central region, Black Sea, Red Seas, SCS, Taiwan, prosperity, unrights of economics, rest of maritime connectivity, internet, and agri reliance on undersea cables, pipelines, revenues, maritime connectivity, pressure for China, pursuing naval wide and maritime work, China, sea, Taiwan, or beyond. Taiwan war goes nuclear, Edison 24. Invasion of Taiwan brought into defense, including new thousands of threats, despite and a few China's leadership, the state official Black leaders consider failure existential nuclear support possible, not stop it nothing, and still escalation, not all Chinese policy believe using on Taiwan, it's constitute violation of enemy mentioned first strikes against US. Extension provides legal basis to direct Chinese and Russian SOI expansion over 21. Scott Russian China Russian not the of uncles injured influence Arctic communities, not Russia, that single member, not a signatory of uncle putting in disadvantage Russia attempted claim Arctic when the US refused claim China Russia. Will point out no legal standing because US is not ratified uncles, not cost is non-existent or forward. Its ability to check FTA territorial conflict in China making it easy to overlap states and enduring for respect position and health image. The bold range China Russia treaty and increasing capabilities to firm without immunity and warship. Sea power code ratify enables installation data situations running competition increases US for the US maybe to legitimacy to uncles. Anything else US conflict resolution crowd 23. What should say about the art to the blocking Canadian Danish dubbing party to uncles yet unable to make participating in dispute settlement that affects security, affecting the nation continue near of deliver. China Philippines full conflict guarantees strong life was equal to 24. Conflict over reef involved new war, China in incendiary situation has got both Philippines, both great powers of arsenal shoals have dangerous platform China aggressive to disrupt efforts to develop by training provocation, can spark conflict that would death to the globe, killing Philippines across the red line defense treaty is serious. Arctic conflict escalates for 24. Warming is melting of parts of faster light, exposed spectrum from hours likely to increase Ukraine's impact on geopolitical increase, Arctic energy elevate, but some things accident escalation, Russia relying on new concerns after the natural loss of Ukraine, the plan. The United States African Party to the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, extinction weights under any firm quantity for generation of the sea. Reducing extradition more, most important, they're showing small shares of future people as well, we're given 0.001% weight in all consequences, ladder doesn't matter, the minimum plausible version of the ultimate rejection with concern. Blending data, try to strong reason juice X interest, 9% should have reason from harm to juice X interest. Advantage of juice credibility, the Green Party boosts credibility enables comprehension and reduces reliance on escalatory finance. 524. There's the ability to operate and shut out, to remain hesitant without legitimacy, unput the rights, this is the advantage of allocated powers, yes, control the government over top of diplomatic avenues. China cites non-membership dismissed, criticism and inhibits the ability to cooperate with allies, they have attribution denied, object for status recognition lines of maintaining bond peaceful needs of diminishing competition products, increased potential for escalation. Plan to revitalize democratic credibility and TAL's insufficient. 21. Restore U.S. credibility institutions and unclosed ratification mitigate democratic governance, bolstering credibility, joining unclosed reforms of law stating customary international law should times not providing stable secret authority and international tribunal. Demonstrated inability to re-clarify adversarial interpretation of international law. 24. China disrupted U.S. ratification unclosed support the community of international law. United States failing by pursuing the policy. China's officials create international law challenge, reduce the law and generate customary international law, self-exempt about binding rules, realistically unclosed signal renewal capability to bolster rules-based order, get China and Russia nation recognize America not ratified observer, critique U.S. is seriously binding this liability for power. ILO leadership pull together a global cooperation that's the resolving U.S. to risk. 20. This includes purpose on the institution against advantage to return great power competition, institutions and continuing visibility of the fragmentation breakdown pathing designs and great power level of universe. Of course, we claim project building order upon multilateral anchor. Fiercely they can turn around foreigners done by transnational dangers, climate change, pandemic, crisis, failed state, prolific, regulated too little rights to evolve. 30% of international with its weakest factors of birth institutions. It's a typical part reinforcing globalism solves every risk shaping 21. Supreme Court for Development, current President Keller, Chancellor for Equal Crops and Texture Structure, AI, Biotech, Natural Consequences, and Global Crops, to effectively address such environmental cycle, regards a new isle paradigms, planning on unlocks U.S. climate leadership, number 21, farming is reshaping the ocean, conversion maritime, the conversion for U.S. climate leadership is needed, that's not party to UNCLOS, prohibited from submission, UNCLOS by every other state during UNCLOS, climate change, raise question back into the law, will apply, however, reduce focus on the permanent Swan leads to extinction, the U.S. needs to seat at the table to lead climate and sea issues, solve warming, U20. Now, second climate action, no alter the U.S. China climate policy will welcome U.S. back to domestic policies, eroded trust American century, is valuable, prevent, catalyze, reliable progress agenda, and repair reputation, climate change, catalyze climate action beyond the 47 bold action at home drive, action internationally, it's by 2030, no 2030, fire traps, floods, heat waves, infinity, someone rest migration, catalyze the effects of climate change, student 2030 emission, brings climate life to the ecosystem for decades, over 1 capacity, projected even more than high GHG, sodium carbon jobs, fires, falling from fossil fuels, the decades of society, pollution, exasperate vulnerability, contaminated, loss of land and water, disease, global catastrophe, worldwide collapse, and irregular process, short point signal, and very one outside world sea policymaking, global outreach have been driven by efforts to render power, predictable, and overcome regional insecurities amongst that of the most stable political institutions made of predictable, regularized law, foreign power policy may produce rises, allow states to build long-term mutually beneficial relations, and this for straight months and produces foreign observers. Hegemonic stability theory is true, hegemonic economic stability and effective multilateral, ultimately 23. British econ supremacy, accelerated shaping naval primacy as the world econ progress hedges the entity with most research, the agency brings those need for leadership of global econ governance for economic progress, and leaders need to maintain momentum, hegemon provide the international institution regulate the system, public goods instigated by being ahead, econ and political power, leeway is relevant for the benefit of the system, because as a case study, and the U.S. production reinvigorates global regulations, restricting maritime pollution, but 17, neither such as provides sufficient carriers to avoid unpleasant pollution regulation. If countries continue to exacerbate, we must be having agreement signing on with U.S. reinvigorates sustainable future marine pollution trigger cascading plus. Okay, yeah.
If we're not.
Yeah.
The China scenario, the SES scenario, never mind. Okay, is the argument in your second advantage that the ILAW, strengthening ILAW stabilizes hedge, or the hedge stuff just agrees?
Couple of things. First, the HST theory says that in a world in which we have an increase, well, it is advanced, I should say, but the is that when you have a strong we're saying that global governance and becoming a hegemon means that you can regulate the system, and so it solves sustainability in a world in which the economy is failing.
Okay, how is it the case that the United States can both become a hegemon and also create like unilateral or multilateral action? Like,
Those two, well, those you can lead multilateral action, which is what this part is saying. The
Okay,
yeah.
Okay, that's fine. The debit 21 card and the U20 cards are before Trump was elected, and we talked about why U.S. climate action is key. He has pulled out of every other climate agreement. Why is he close enough to overwhelm all of that?
I think all of that proves you need this for arguments. If Trump is pulling out now, then
I'm asking why you need this doesn't overwhelm. I understand you're unique to this. It's definitely true that our climate credibility is tanked.
Yeah, so how would it overwhelm the link? If countries view us as being weak now, then the reason for why UNCLOS is able to solve it, because it's because it fixes centuries-long
Like, where do you have
years-long perception of how Trump has been?
Where do you think you read evidence that ratifying UNCLOS is more powerful than the fact that you
Oh, it's pretty strong.
No, I'm not asking about how strong it is. I'm asking where you read evidence, not your thoughts about like
This is what the carding evidence says.
the carding evidence makes no time frame
does.
claim. Where does it say
It
that this will happen
says-
quickly? It says it will gradually, oh, actually, you didn't highlight gradually, so I guess that's why, but it says gradually.
It says it's more effectively, and it also said that it's even if it's a long-term framework,
Okay,
it
so it's
still says
long-term.
that it shapes it.
It says invest over the long-term law, this, so just wanted to put it in long term. Also. orders for than place an order via advantages. In the United States, level one, or plan the United States ship one is for Philippines resupply vessels and maximum supply missions from Australia and Japan to carrying those lines with Philippines fight on from more US bases to define that China's incursions to increase the amount of credit for Russia to healing to fight LPHR to governmental grapple force out of China Russia that legally cannot be revealed during times of conflict, 5.5 million tons of diamond dust into the stratosphere every year. Planes 1 to 2 solve FPS reestablished balance and power check depending military buildup. After 24 re-election goes over both Beijing with back downtown like Europe to facilitate the US and there's new sorting Philippines for 5 vessels impacting formation of allies. Trying to mention the one growing challenge of the Ukraine has been a fair chance the nations started being very much trade global balance of power and handling resolved balancing results of chain access to both beneficial cooperation for the Arctic Road 21. Further version of over Russia down better than the combined position of the NDCA areas of cooperation to divide the rules of the roads in order to pull more to reduce tensions and mitigate the risk of conflict. Your accident for mishap continuing for defense to discourage Russia from harassing military and air craft to ground the Arctic combination result of change that technically for that overacting and like war solved by having clear lines of communication from leadership the escalating hotlines compared with work and playing 5 self warming compared with 18. Bring the dominance in the atmosphere to offset almost all warming since I or virus times I said it's not because to be cool to plan for 1.8 degree planes or required properties and companies go to any no source things and defense going out if I was helping to short planes like for reactionary and the first one to fly for 1 year strength of to an arc 5 because our invasion next off. Counterplay the United States with gross rap height and one of your group that also collective understanding or organizing the conventional law of the sea change the standard from innocent cost prohibited information collection that causes physical harm or impact by the collection of the present coastal state of the agreement in terms of enforcement convention and declare doesn't recognize or implementing no strict concepts together as customary ILO substantially increase investment research and deployment of maritime intelligence and ban maritime intelligence particularly establishes the vessels and agent intelligence gathering around the title that is perhaps effective maritime intelligence implementing agreements all section 21 presently used in our stop having quality of application being given about knowledge of that maritime is going to involve the sea level consequently resulted in dispute resolution of any shield and essential loss credibility resource uncertainty computing and formula maritime is going to represent separate ability of floating attack vision concerning and altering or preventing preventing operational intelligence flag invading everything else that causes physical harm and impacts and intelligence pattern violates the nation of innocent passions in the state practice it proves it's prohibited regardless any legal ambiguity supercharges late triggered this how we must man clarity prior to section question 20 lack of clarity concerning maritime has been on top of volatility concern that the lack of consensus on review intelligence collection on contrary law of this counter question intelligence collection of the legal you post the act that aims at collecting information of presence proposal stating from on for forbidden and innocent passage for there and the counterpoints all toxic examples for other parties say yes after advantages of reason we have leverage touching someone is considered new will make agreement permitted seven voucher because over 22 years successfully lobbying one concession of 1994 US one amendment changing technical and transfer research sharing the implementation was accepted for maybe an opportunity to adopt and maritime intelligence scatters critical avoiding conflict escalation preventing Texas Central Arms Racing Albania 24 maritime intelligence for the corner of national security intelligence being more info part of China submarine warfare arms using national security relying maritime intelligence identify potential threats where they escalate into better to debate reinforcing their national defense strategies intelligence and necessity between interesting prosperous sustainable future and peace resolution mandates this session is functionally the same touch as 21 but you conditionally see no law to see singularly good states and arms all time completed changing in the United States no reservations or exemptions and during the debt ceiling raise will pass soon and Trump getting people on board with post NPCs came after support that but with narrowly regarded framework telling the words of such to be able to play one more mouse and the next step hasn't which is head lose only food attracted from a slim majority due to conservative for conservative the animal section of the rich are and regraphication will significant PC for time focus real links the trade-off of the legislative priorities project 14 seeing trees theory having opportunity across the cars the administration and Northern PC with major voting for urban legislative priorities require we for time for debate humans and revolutionaries so especially if our government is more complicated with the science and from our Republicans when and in fact hardware seeking trees and controversial topics like new
close to public failures and hyperverse and ideological minorities in the Harker and the Republican Party, the Republicans retreating liberal conspiracies, anti-focus readiness, causing conflict escalation, health failure, and adversarial cyber attacks throughout 2023. These were affecting military operations, defense industry, and war, civilizations, and charter rules, safety involved, undermine trust in the U.S. global financial shock, default, contributor, rising borrowing costs and credit loans, leading to cost of military burdens that default, given fact global instability, to become operational readiness, empowering adversary actors, escalating conflict, running American technological check and intelligence and cyber operations, high strategic threats, intelligence have diminished, quality analysis, cut analysis, and next off, UCOS is an extractive management demand for organization, economic productivity overall is dividing up the global public sector using the extraction rate in 1922. UCOS consolidates extractive management, UCOS companies, videos, and parcels of street sites of economic activity, including extraction research, normal publications, and promoted continuing provision of fisheries, promoted tech optimal utilization, utilization of living resources, water resources, and capital return, and sustainable created triangle station that acts as central climate change and environmental trends and unstable international order handles 23. Capitalism and the screen capitalism are more than crime, distinction, gas, capitalism, environmental data, more basic emergency humanities that face performer, see threatening to demoralize species, and alternatives radical making law the sea in favor of a new level of ocean governance with the Anthropocene and return to the spirit of being most reevaluate the debate through competing political imaginaries and contest gas consequences of the law European during 1922. Equals the ocean for extractive activities adjacent part of the mandatory inside desire to find the such and equals reason the coordination world making replace colonial structure producing for grounding equality distributed justice not succeed well in structure with the neoliberal capitalism limited radical possibility overtake on the controlled appetite and organization capitalism really remain structure nature of activity no longer public the government framework only thing separation of mastery of nature and operating reflection nature law of sea doctrine influence of the world that is all favoring system law of sea part of this loyalty equals for demand nothing is more making ambition over preserving flawed classifications case. Naval strength pointing collaborators to China Marshall revisionists. That's the reason they've been compliant with international maritime law. They would just throw their hands up. Insert and applications there. The fact on Chinese conversion the SDS, Section 16. You post provide a visual illusion addressing speech representative exercise independent routine or not speak instructions and everything please. Beijing would submit to the authority of Beijing by any calculated subject to funding sovereignty the SDS outweighs reputational damage nothing incredibly uses better position and collaborators on a research-based analysis. Their military officer who's incentive to inflate the imports of the Navy and the internal fear mongering. Of course, the Philippine ambassador would want to overhype the China threat. Insert yellow and no SDS war to issue go back down to avoid economic fallout and have neutralized bias analysis China 24 military competition exaggerated long term objectives title line interrupt century long goals to engage in conflict between explaining why wise on hard difficulty over safety equality relative analysis option has analysts have to overlook historical analysis of version charting informed mind that's running over the design economic progress analysis for conflict about likely no means doing in addition inevitable and no Navy impact by 16 the states would be roughly the same with the US Ocean control the doesn't stable use of the degree to which they control the sea and no should Philippines war it's global conflict de-escalation now long 24 it comes to has been latest accusation of China's Coast Guard soldiers feeling strong policy against China so far no fatalities China blame the US and Washington will be referenced publication for recent weeks both de-escalated immediate conflicts conflict and the second advantage to see at the table is meeting with 14 U.S. national elected servers in personal capacity meeting came much of their representatives. The team would be conducted by some member of the subcommission with the U.S. may now sit the benefits of having seated table to not justify a session and will Trump will back other climate provisions so the impact is inevitable. There evidence is embarrassingly old doesn't account for Trump's recent actions and no credibility impacting U.S. credibility stable funds has no impact. The plan makes it worse. 122 for the credibility of such minor events and performance repercussions. Use rather self-centered resources absolutely with U.S. active disruption international stability, climate stability and international coordination on climate actions and possible domestic issues of world developing nation both sacrifice economic development and will be gradually pushed by inevitable intermediate mitigation.
You mind just sending out where you want? Yeah. Us. Good. You can also say what you think.
I'm sure, like 1.2.
Or just like one word.
Yeah, 1.2 disrupt quote international stability.
Oh yeah, that's the one.
Okay, and then yeah, on the Sutton card, kind of ratification or sorry, kind of the US is in a better position.
I don't see in a better position now.
Oh, that's very sorry. Try just better position. Sorry, it's this up. So that's okay.
There's so many things.
Yeah, the handle card is cut at doom all life species. Brendan Nathan cut at living resources. Then on the design tarot card cut at analysis. Just the last sentence. And last is just the second preference card. That is in passage. Or we look for anything that and request information to credit to facilitate any not forbidden. For the line about proposal.
The blanks about. Or like the K, it says that. Capitalism sucks to be bad, you have the debt ceiling, is that which one's true?
Two things, one, conditionality justifies performance contradiction for testing different angles against the act. Two, that the debt ceiling does not contradict. The argument that in a capitalist world, we should try to avoid extinction by working within it is very different than saying we should protect capitalism. The alternative looks like a reimagination of the coast, i.e. the oceans is now a global commons that we can share. There are no competing exclusive economic zones and things like that. And shared use of essential resources. Hence why this is not inconsistent with the debt ceiling decide, because that's just an argument for what policy we should do to avoid war in a capitalist world we already
Your
live in.
impact evidence for the like espionage counter plan says that other countries such as Australia, India, and Japan can block the world's oceans. It's like the first line. They are all members of UNCLOS now, so like has the plan
Which impact evidence are you showing?
chain.
I skipped that part. I didn't read Shangers.
What other parts did you say?
On everything, or
Yeah, check on them.
I skipped the Sikorsky evidence, the summers of nearing Webster date and functional competition, sexual competition. And then
Okay, so you read the arms racing impact?
I read it has like a couple of arms racing in one of the impacts.
What's the
but
other
yes,
impact?
the Albanian card. The Albanian card says that maritime intelligence is key internally to all conflicts. That includes things like geopolitical strategies to stop submarine warfare from escalating, arms racing and competition, and national security, including things like deterrence efforts.
Okay, wait, maritime intelligence expands to like 12 feet off of like where the coast ends. How is maritime intelligence gonna like get anything off of that?
Yeah, like a couple arguments. One is that the Albanian evidence is making empirical claims that maritime intelligence collection has been essential in the past. Two is that maritime intelligence collection and the fact that it's so close and like hidden is key to deterrence. We don't want other countries to know that they know every single one of our operations.
This is about arms racing and it says that we rely on it. Where have you read like a uniqueness claim for your impact? Because we have maritime intelligence now. We don't have Red Star national security. Like where's like the existential arms racing?
The half is the uniqueness. What do you mean? It's the argument in the Albanian evidence is that, we have maritime intelligence now. It says, quote, it has been a cornerstone of national security. It's become an integral part of geopolitical strategies, submarine warfare, etc. Taking care of competition. Like, I don't know what you mean. Unless
Well, I'm
you're-
just asking about the uniqueness for.
Yes,
this.
we are not in a
This is
nuclear. What like uniqueness are you looking for? The like negative is or like we've read a card that says that maritime intelligence has succeeded in protecting national security as of right now.
Where's national security law?
What?
Actually, wait,
It's mine now. That's the after there's a
Did
link.
you say, skipping the other parts?
Yeah, on case.
It's just the general stuff.
On case. The general stuff. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, the non-US,
General and then
international conflict.
yeah, and the first credibility card, the like first wall card, I just started all 22.
This is the case, the customer counter plan, the drainage counter plan, that's nothing with the pen.
Please talk down.
It's espionage, a village counter plan, the sign can. So I've, read the, I think I said this, but it doesn't matter.
Oh, I thought, sorry, is this a document? Oh, okay, then.
Yes, Oliver, make them, they say, Oliver, the reason for non-cooperation, we should trust the military officer, I think he knows what he's doing, and the sound evidence is closed, affirmative consensus, the plan solved, we've inserted yellow, also we don't need to solve rhetoric, we just use rule setting, which is enough to control the evidence is old and show that there's going to be changes in US Chinese policy, which only we account for the China evidence, the economy stops now, relations have not been worked, and it goes down, and says what with the US must prepare for full-scale war as worst case, most likely possibility, I think that they call it part before then, but it proves that we need to do this, and the plan is a good idea, we're not going to go for independent Navy impact. And we're also not going to go for the Philippines impact, just as there's Bronze Taiwan War, which has been cold conceded impact that China is impeding in the SES. We need to rein them in, which will be the plan. This is going to do by stopping them and showing them a clear red line. Yes, cyber provisions, we fix a decade-long perspective of what the US is going to do. Paris only proves you need this evidence because it shows that the US is changing back on it. If you don't mean there's going to be no rollback, other countries adopt their measures to dismiss it. You the reason for why they aren't doing it because they haven't set global norms. Agreement about what is good and a bad idea, validating how the means to do, but the reason why they aren't because the US isn't going to do it. US credibility is low now. Trump killed it, and the Democrats got way too early for them to get it, and he changed it. War attack, espionage counterplay. One person the counterplay, counterplay, country dependent, force to not to become support, abuse of links with parts, all the impact text is inserted to obligation, very culture, no data, commission of obligation, adaptability, expectation, certainty, unpleasant packaging, which their own body competition assumes, shape begins to form unilateralistic behavior, which proves credibility, plus we're also the current evidence proves as animosity 19, because science packaging, prevent shape begins fights rules, right to duty, specific activity, unilateralism towards unclosed, increase roundable, common, if not right, hour of war, and the SES, the arts more broadly, unilateralistic behavior, increase confidence in general, no link, the espionage said, was in cross 9 points basically, and 10 points dispute, activities, state made, elective jurisdiction, exceeding 2 after state made, not accepted by the one, but the other procedure, not accepted by Article 298, Article President Truman, while constituting military activity and message, not to review the conversion back to rates and reconnaissance for military ED. Say yes tonight for China Russia. No one because it creates an organization to spy on the government spot unrelated groups. State parties can choose to execute certain military activities from military decisions. And then we espionage, posting across the night. We're saying to actually skip this part. No terminal to arms racing, the number red one in non-unique maritime intelligence hideout, AI assault, MPA version 24, maritime information intelligence, pure information linked to IRS, vision, private companies, skip, data intelligence, skylight data. The advantage one group to go, the chill two group to any non-mutually exclusive like to can't solve scope, the biggest amount of training happens every answer for global cooperation, and it's potentially related to the ocean application views, immediately huge leadership that's fighting confidently unclosed, revitalized training applications, and all their disputes, absent that conflict, RT, SES, Philippines, and Africa, Philippines advantage, evidence have no broad about conflict, disapprove any third place, with all potential strategic behind the region, China's pushing the boundaries, also the impact that the Syria were to go for specifically to Taiwan, which is the pushing in the SES, and also the secret service for the Philippines, you can't just escort people areas and cause fighters from above, increasing US bases means the Chinese want to feel heightened presence and tensions in the area, we need to assert themselves in the region, but we do not need to just increase bases, especially when there's going to be no global norms for this, which means that China to see this as a unilateral action instead of diplomatic, then they feel more threatened. The 3 it's too vague, Lake, mutual interest we have, commercial beyond giving up the Arctic qualities of existence in cold war fields. Now the countries don't listen, global legal framework is what's needed, not a one-off policy for climate. It cements like leadership is durable, that's 75 20. Increases that with me, do you know that it links the debt ceiling to step one? Tariff Trump and start historical trade, cold war record at all, 4/3/25. Historical war Trump tariffs, percent across all countries, tariffs on average, US household 21,000 per year, global markets, rival US suffering from the war same. Since 2020, US all worked at all means, global markets also fell sharply, tariffs took over, recession, Canada, EU, comparing to counter-Russian scales, also leaning over means normal force of quite faster just as insurance logical balls because the plan raised debt disease taking so many measures won't get to the Senate voted for 11 Senate to be divided over the budget committee with the seventh position. Senators are worried about the leader two emission goal will be tough to handle. Or they would oppose the cuts to Medicaid or Senate too long for now or appears through for this 25 years of Congress allowed 50 to zero base. This is next thing we raise water crews won't be a regional until massive and border ready set to real the containers of policies taken both the 40 amendment raise the debt ceiling. The K proper one trade when you have to continue to the plan and also arbitrary regressive second granted should make this for concrete that it's marine credit educated for both for the plan mindset of the alternative. If they drop to see, US military strength makes not stable and self-correcting, that's 20 C old strategy causes consumer respect the environment. Also, we can't solve any of the case of what's bad socialism, certain 19. So people start off talking people in general, socialism by example, women's health, the fields, reform, healthcare, to keep the population returning without probably just don't get anything away with mitigate. One part soft debt would mitigate.
I'll start. Power plan, the debt design. The K and. Spanish kind of playing process competition, they're not actual advocacy, same as your espionage, for OTC for process competition, the, debt design, my favorite part, within the case, there's the party case, which means they don't get any offense off this vote, we will concede defense, the, proposal will be answered on the K page, The 1AC is a capitalist project that endorses a treaty that engages in endless resource exploitation and preservation of a capitalist society. Capitalism is barreling us towards extinction from excess and forming a militarization. The fact that they did not articulate solvency in the 1AR and instead say militaristic solutions work and do things like say, yeah, means Trump won't roll back. When my argument on case was that Trump will roll back other policies, which means that it's terminally unable to solve climate. Only democratic socialism working for the common good can allow us to transition away from capitalism. Now it's try or die. Capitalism is terminally unsustainable and barreling it could cause us converging global crisis that lock in a triangle of extinction. Impact was conceded. The irreversible climate collapse, rampant inequality, erupting wars in the Middle East, world wars with China, and unstable global order. Mean collapse is imminent now. No impact defense on the critique means any risk of impact defense on the case page will be enough to vote. It is try or die negative. Now the K outweighs warming outweighs. They have warming impacts and they've said it outweighs for us. But we also turn conflict. The reason conflicts in the Arctic or anywhere else escalated because of countering claims to the region for oil trade routes, fishing, all of which capitalism causes. The alternative removes the incentive for conflict by enabling the world to share resources and global commons for the common good. Now it turns conflict. Half is the root cause of conflict. One, imperialist group states are constantly jockeying to share resources and ensure growth. Two, military and industrial conflicts ensures that corporations have a profit incentive to foster conflicts. Is the best way to ensure we keep on buying. Increase government use nationalistic fervor garnered for conflict and massive stemming discontent because of capitalism. Now they're going to go for case outweighs, but no one entire guy for extra calculus. You know that there's a risk of defense on case, but there won't be on the critique because they didn't read it. And the impact data case won't outweigh one sort of policy failure. We've agreed the world is capitalist now. There are so many threats in this world. They propose more of the status quo. The reason we keep solving these conflicts and then another conflict comes along is because the structure that undergirds it all is all bad. Now you can put this here or on the case page, but they dropped an essential piece of defense on the case page, which was they said that Trump will roll back the plan because of fiat, but Trump will roll back every other climate policy, which definitely comes our international perception means they do not get solvency. It's game over and it's offense more than critique. The alternative solves their inevitable case outweighs time for 2 hour will serve no alternative ocean governance. The new system is not based on exploitation or economic growth. It can solve cooperation and disputes. Think of it as removing UCLOS and making a new system that does a similar thing but without exploitation, i.e. we establish a model of ocean governance, but it's not based on who owns which economic parts. Now, time for 2 hour is not viable. 3 argument and 4 arguments. If you don't have any of them, it's game over. Time frame is not. It's just a probability argument. Intervening actors factors being short-term scenarios are more probable, but it's totally unlikely. No one scenario causes full extinction. It's more likely the system like capitalism does. Now, if you think time frame outweighs, warming outweighs, and as above, and all the have to do is kick the can down the road, but try or die means you vote negative K turns K, so 2 hour time frame explanation will be hey, Burkon, no counter-interpretation and can run contradictory positions. One is next class, the other is in here, time first class speech, the next needs to access all possible strategies, and reasonability good is good enough, and you can have concepts of the class infinite for theory, and it's not conditional. It's not contradictory because you know that saying we should prevent war in a capital system is not the same as saying that it's good, and they've not explained why it's And the framework counter-interpretation of the debate or competing political imaginaries and actually has the consequences and ideological underpinnings. They do not have any framework offense in the way or evaluate competition through a philosophical lens. They can weigh the case, but if the link proves the ideological commitment to the alternative, they don't get affirmed. Preferred scholarship, winning the debates have won an impact on career scholarship is bad and untrue reciprocity. The basic question should not commit their feeling of attitudinal durability despite lack of political will is utopian, which also answers in utopian fiat. Now their interest is neoliberal. We can't imagine any alternative to Cap's good idea because Cap has made itself a hegemonic ideology. If we win any of this, we win the framework case. And reps shape reality. We're all participants in the capitalist economy. We bear responsibility to question our acquiescence to the system. Now the link was dropped. Not only stand that first link equals as a capitalist project that aims to shrink the global commons in favor of privatization and endless resource extraction. Every past example goes neg. 36% of the world's waters were excluded from the common heritage of mankind. The fact we have not ratified UNCLOS is because economic motives get in the way. Now, when he sees frame of going to point the international order towards the US is bad, that's the vomit evidence. They dropped the link. No term to goal. Winning framing means that the link excludes the term. Framework answers apply. Seventh out of their political imaginary. The links are dissads and prove the term is severance. The alternative is mutually exclusive. The alternative world is set up an alternative regime for ocean governance and disbanding UNCLOS. How do you ratify something that does not exist? It's obviously severance and no net benefit. It turns case in all solvency arguments. Proves sustainability means reliance on the market and inevitably failed. Now you can't see the app in the mindset of the alternative because the entire thesis of the alternative is that we cannot have UNCLOS that splits things up into an imaginary, otherwise they sever their reps and they conceded that they don't get perms, but they don't get perms. Utopian fiat we don't feel for potential harms. You create all solvency and all indents. Now the like hedge stuff doesn't solve. They drop the capitalism is terminally unsustainable. You can't drop impacts. You can't concede an impact and then go for this. Conceded that only the old solves the unconventional. The law of the sea, conference on the law of the sea was a moment of immense possibility and attempt to complete structure of exploitation, colonialism, justice, and preservation of resources. The alternatives, and I'm making UNCLOS in favor of a new regime for the Anthropocene that returns to the spirit of UNCLOS 3. Now, no transition wars. They don't protect all solvency. The assumption that the old is the same thing as bloody communist revolution is straight up wrong. Framework proves this isn't a policy debate. We're advocating for a shift in ideology, and they should have actually read the all-round expansion of democratic control of the economy and a rethinking of ocean governance. Now, and transition wars are just a pure tactic used to stop resistance past failures only because neoliberal imaginings have walked in previous revolutions, and transition wars when it happened were Chelsea can't kill off the proletariat. They know that their economies would stop working. Now, the app solves the case better. It's altering innovation in an economy where people work for the common good rather than for profit. More likely invested in pro-social innovation. That was above. Now they don't get now they have conceded that climate locks in existential warming and water wars. Go to the case page. They have conceded that capitalism locks in existential warming and water wars, which means they definitely cannot solve their Arctic or warming scenarios. And they have conceded they have conceded that capitalism controls the root cause of conflict, which means that they have the alternative. They definitely cannot solve. That's the reason that the reason we have the like Trump rollback stuff and the other arguments and the wall evidence that says that anything that just changes within the system are going to fail. Now they've conceded impact defense, that international coordination on climate is impossible. So you know that only the all can solve via restructuring the way we think of resources. Any world in which we do the plan fails. Because doing the plan necessarily affirms the fact that we should split up the ocean into exclusive economic zones. That is a key part of being close. Anything else is severance. Also, there were too many technical concessions, which means you should hold the line on to your extrapolation and vote nay.
I was working on the same page with my, consider one of the case. But then, okay.
People solve for me. It's actually completely dropped the entire case. The entire version of the money are said that we need a hard policy in order to stop other countries such as China from entering the Taiwan Sea and the Strait of the SES in order to bomb all of Taiwan. That immediately goes nuclear, which means even if we're not winning time frame, but we are winning high probability because this is just a drop to 20C and whatever impact, which means that this is root cause. All of the root cause arguments don't answer, we'll get to it later, but we said that the weak US is what is going to do it. If China cites US non-membership as the reason for why they're exporting, we need to control them in and bring them in. Obviously, if we're socialist and we're Dutch democratic and we do nothing about them, China is going to immediately export this. You should also bring this about the fact that the 2NR never explains how the K is able to solve all of this. The alternative just cannot solve any of it, especially if it's not able to solve for Yonkos. We said this especially in the 1AR, even if it was a blip, they would just completely one drop. The framework and also just have ways and issues forming, even if they're right about international coordination, it possibly this equally applies to the world of the alternative. One is that they never read any of the arguments about how warming and the alternative is able to solve, or how all of socialism is going to spill out, which means that international coordination in the world of the atom is impossible, so is the world of the alternative, which is their only impact that they're going for. You should not exclude water wars or anything external. A, because they cut the card way too early. You should go back. And this is why I asked about it. They just said the world of socialism means that there's going to be some obligation, then some fisheries. Who cares? None of this is the terminal impact for them, especially not external, which means international coordination is also felt, especially by other countries not following the US, even if they're socialist. And they gave no words for how they're able to do it, which means only we will have an impact in this round. As for the impact debate, you should also vote off of fairness. We are going off of the frame agreement. We should not lose. I mean, if you lose, you need to concede. You need to have links to play. We are going to extend fairness. It's the biggest impact debate. Nobody enters the debate phase if they already know that they're going to lose from the get-go. Otherwise, you lose 6 minutes of the money seat, which is worse, especially for time scale, which is terrible in LD. Also, even if we're in a neoliberal thing, all of their worries about why debate is supposed to focus on a center of something else, which is neoliberalism, which is arbitrary and self-serving for them, because they can say the same thing about any sort of critique, which means that there's defaults into looking at the advantages, or just looking about the plan text, which is the most stable support of stasis fate. Now, they also don't get ruptured reality. A, there's no evidence backing this up. B, is that other things that we do are obviously going to do it, but even if that's true, then we should stop. Then we are for representationship reality, then I should not want the Taiwan Strait to get bombed. Next, the unsustainability debate. This frames all of their offense. They misunderstand what HSC says. We said in the old Veggie 23, evidence aside from what you see, that we have a strong US and it's able to self-correct all their issues. So all the issues that they say about how there's reoccurring issues, they have the root cause. It doesn't matter. All of this says is that when we have a stronger US and we're able to fix the economy and fix it so that we can have a more cohesive structure, especially which means that it outweighs on scope, is completely one job. They just said that this alternative is able to solve. This is not what we are saying. We are saying that unsustainability frames our antics, which means that things like climate change can be resolved because we're able to create new technology, which is able to be done. The root cause of conflict is wrong. First, MIT, HSC is able to solve it. You should prefer old veggie tape. With the growth of government, we can refix it, especially by things like trade and interdependency. Government is able to use it. I have no idea what this means, but the alternative is still going to trigger this, and HSC is able to solve. That also proves that Trier Guy is not able to flip it because all of their solutions are mitigated to the sense that sustainability is not going to be done. Also by the fact that they cut the card way too early for any unsustainability war. They said that there's some trigger collapse. We read the full card.
Where was this card?
Which are the one C in that card?
The alternative.
It's the first part on the K was kind of utilization of the living resources.
That's the link part.
I know, I'm just staying around it. Okay. It was kind of utilization of the living resources. The handle 23 evidence was kind of threatening to doom all life species, period.
Sorry, which one was that?
And the alternative part I read.
Sorry, one more time, what was the second card?
Doom all living species.
All life species.
Sorry, life species.